Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another review of The Mandalorian. Today, we're taking a look at Chapter 22, Guns for Hire. Right off the bat, I have to say that this is the worst episode of the series in a long, long time for one single, very important reason. There is no "the" at the beginning of the title, which means that when you're looking at everything on Disney Plus, the aesthetic is totally blown. It's like like all but one other episode of this show has had "the" in the title, and now suddenly they just drop the. They just go with "Guns for Hire" instead of "the Guns for Hire." I mean, I don't know how Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni let us down on this. I mean, it's unacceptable that they would ruin Star Wars like this. Sorry, I just thought I would maybe try to jump on the "let's hate Mandalorian for no reason" bandwagon, and that was the only reason I could come up with. Obviously, as you're probably well aware, watching this episode is controversial. And I liked it. Now I am comfortable saying that this is probably the weakest episode of the season. I'm fine with saying that, but do I think it's bad? No. I mean, I think this is totally fine. Knowing how Mando works, oftentimes where we have these a lot of these fun adventure of the week episodes right up until like the very last week or 2 weeks. I'm not really surprised here that we have an episode like this. Was I kind of hoping for more drama and straight up action? Yes. But was I disappointed about what we got? No. In terms of quote unquote disappointment, I was actually maybe a little bit more disappointed with the convert because it just wasn't expecting it to be 40 minutes of Dr. Pershing. And it's because you see the runtime and it's 15 minutes. It's like, oh man, this episode's going to go all out and it's just going to be all action. And then it's mostly just Dr. Pershing, doing things around Coruscant. Which again, I had my whole review of that episode. It's fine. I like it. I think it's really good. But that's the closest I have to disappointment, is that I set myself up with false expectations of what that episode would be based on the runtime. So you can't really judge it based on false expectations. So this episode, I think, is much the same, where and that's the thing. Didn't even really know what to expect from this. Is that the only thing we really expected from this is that Bo-Katan was going to go recruit more Mandalorians. She did that. She found Axe Woves. She found Costco Reeves. So that they checked that one off the list. They completed that plot assignment. So they did everything anyone was actually really expecting them to do in the episode. It's just that they also did other things people weren't expecting. So, and we'll get into that now. So, of course, they go to this side quest planet number 23 in Mando, and they land there, and kind of curious. It's like, okay, they're going into this place, and okay, you got people eating dinner or lunch or whatever, some sort of meal. It's very fancy and everything, and then. Who are the people leading this party? None other than Jack Black and some singer lady I didn't know existed before this episode came out. I had to Google her. Her name came up in the credits. I'm like, what the heck is a Lizzo? I didn't know who this person was. I had to Google her. Still didn't know who she was. Then I'm like, okay, popular Lizzo songs. I'm like, oh, she's that artist. Okay, not a fan of her music, but she did fine acting here, so it's whatever. Just wasn't expecting that. I honestly really liked having Jack Black in Star Wars. It was fun. Excuse me. That was the internet fanboys trying to force choke me from a distance for saying that I like this episode. No, I thought it was fun to have Jack Black in here. He was playing a silly character and everything, but he wasn't like over the top or really ruining the tone or anything. And I've already forgotten her name, Lizzo. That's it. And like I said, I think Lizzo did fine with her acting for being a singer. As far as I'm aware, she doesn't really do acting. So I think she did fine here. I mean, I didn't realize she wasn't an actor. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah, this works. I liked some of the background details that their personal guards were wearing stormtrooper armor, but they just had some like frilly things over it. I thought that was cool because it's like they were at one point in Imperial world, so they're just repurposing what they have, but they've added things on top of it, so they're just not obviously stormtroopers. Because it's kind of like if you're in Germany and in like 1946 and 1947, and you're looking around and the cops are getting back to work and everything after the war, and it's like you guys are still wearing the gray uniforms. This is a little creepy. And they put in then like, okay, yeah, you're right. This is a little weird. We need to do something to differentiate. I know, smiley face, and they put like a little smiley face badge on them or something. So yeah, but I did enjoy It's like, okay, yeah, they're working with what they have, former Imperial world and everything. And so I really liked the idea that this was this Imperial world, and they were just kind of working with what they had, and trying to make do, they were part of the New Republic amnesty program and everything, building that up, which seems to be kind of a new important thing that they're building up and everything. And that maybe it's just a big cover up for some people to obviously like Officer Kane from Moff Gideon's flagship. It's obviously clearly just a cover for her, but then for Jack Black's character, I really truly believe that he is like trying to be better and turn a new leaf and everything, and so he's quite happy with what he's doing now. So I mean, I thought that was cool world building. I mean, did it bring me out of it a little bit having Jack Black there? Yeah, a little bit, but it's like I like Jack Black. He's fun. He's fine. He's like he's this big popular streamer on the internet and everything, and I guess he's done a little acting on the side or something. Funny jokes, but I don't think I've ever seen Jack Black in a project and I haven't liked him. I think I've always liked Jack Black when he's been in stuff that I've seen. I mean, there's plenty of other things of his that I haven't seen, but I enjoyed seeing him here. It was a fun little treat. In terms of this being like the star-studded, and including special guest star, type episodes, was really, I kind of figured it. It's surprising that it actually took him this long to really get into like a special guest star type episode, because the show is so popular that I feel like Disney could have really doubled down and been like, okay, you need to start working in random people all the time, and they have in the past, but not to this obvious scale, where it's like you've had some notable names in there, but they've played like major recurring characters like Nick Nolte as Queel, and of course we've got Giancarlo Esposito as the main villain and everything, and then now now they brought back Bo-Katan and it's Katie Sackhoff, and it's like, but even then Katie Sackhoff isn't like a household name. But I mean, like Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd, those are a great big obvious, hey, here's who these characters are names, or who these actors are names. So bringing them in was definitely it's like, hey, look who we got, isn't this cool? And yeah, I thought it was a little bit cool under the context of what they were doing with this. I thought it worked, especially for an actor like Jack Black. It would have been cool to see him in a more serious role, because I think he can do serious. I mean, Kung Fu Panda has a lot of comedy in it, but it also has its very serious moments, and he does very good with the serious moments. So it's like, but I mean, that's the thing about Star Wars, though, is that you can do something in live action, and then, a year, 2 years later, you can come back and do a voice role on an animated show, and it'd be a completely different character. Or vice versa. I mean, case in point, Andy Serkis in Andor, since, of course, he's Supreme Leader Snoke in the sequels. That's a big part. That was, cut short. And so then they brought him back on Andor, but since Snoke was a mocap part, they were able to bring him into Andor, and no one, it's like, oh, hey, cool, it's Andy Serkis, but now it's actually his face. So, and he was able to bring even more awesome talent to Star Wars. So, Jack Black could be the same way. Christopher Lloyd could even be the same way. But man, is he old. He's looking really old and frail now. It's like it's I don't know if it was the costume they had him in or something, but I did notice that most of his scenes, he was in a chair or just standing in one place. So it's like he's very clearly old at this point. Which is unfortunate because it's like, oh, we're not gonna have Christopher Lloyd forever. Oh man. Because it's of course Doc Brown, Back to the Future, but I mean he's been all over the place in all sorts of things. So it's like he's just one of those actors that it's like, oh, it's Christopher Lloyd, yay, I like him. So it's like him showing up was cool, and the fact that we got to hear him say Count Dooku was a visionary, I love it. I love it. This is stuff that I've talked about in my Bad Batch reviews, but I really love when Star Wars explores the post Clone Wars era from the point of view of the characters that were on the quote unquote the bad guys side and everything. So again, him going Count Dooku was a visionary. It's like, yeah, there would be people in the Star Wars universe where they would look at how the Clone Wars ended up. It's like, oh, he was cut down in his prime. I mean, like, Count Dooku was old, so it wasn't exactly his prime, but it's like, oh yeah, it's like he had the right idea. We were on the right track, and then evil Palpatine, who we knew was evil, and corrupt with this corrupt Republic Senate, built up the Empire, and so a lot of separatists are probably very happy with the way that the rebellion turned out and that the New Republic is a thing. But Christopher Lloyd's character is even such a stickler that he's not even happy with the New Republic, and he sees the flaws in it. There are a lot of the same flaws and new flaws that the old Republic had, and so he's he's like, well, what the heck do I do with myself? I know, I'll just create a new droid army. So I just thought that was really fascinating, and it was a little unfortunate that they cut that off for a joke where they got him monologuing and the Bo-Katan just zaps him. But it's still cool they worked things in like that. It's really cool seeing battle droids again. Now one complaint I do have about this episode is that up until now I hadn't noticed the ILM is crunching thing. That was more obvious with Marvel projects because, like, I mean, She-Hulk just didn't look good. I don't think really. I think it had something to do with the hair for me. Like, a lot of the skin looked fine and everything, but the hair just looked off. I can't even describe how it was off. It was just off, I felt like. So there was a lot of stuff in like She-Hulk that I didn't really like visually. Not to mention that it's like I liked the show up until like the last episode, and I thought that ruined the whole thing. But it's like, yeah, there was something about She-Hulk that was off. A lot of the CG in like Thor: Love and Thunder wasn't very good. I even thought a lot of the CG in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania wasn't very good at times. And it felt, in that movie felt very artificial. And it's like it's all these fake backgrounds and stuff. It's like you could actually tell when they were actually on a set. Like, it's like spoilers for a movie that came out a month and a half ago. Like when Hank Pym and Janet and Hope are sitting down at a restaurant in the Quantum Realm, and it actually looks like a real set because it is a real set, and they've got tables and stuff, and they've just got the blue screen for the background. Or in Kang's Fortress, it's like, oh, that's an actual set. But like everything else always kind of looked fake and very CG. I don't know what it was about that, because I don't think they filmed in the volume, because even with the volume they do a much better. It felt very it just felt all artificial and stuff. And I think maybe but a lot of movies like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I mean, a lot of that movie was just filmed on a blue screen. They didn't really have many sets, but I think that movie looks great. I don't really see any issues with that. So stuff like Thor: Love and Thunder and She-Hulk and Quantumania, it's like that stuff is definitely the what we've been hearing a lot about. All the visual effects artists are being overworked and stuff. And I was thankful that at the very least it seemed to be only contained to Marvel as far as I could tell, and not Star Wars. But now I think it is affecting Star Wars at the very least with this one episode of Mando. Because Like I said, it was cool to see battle droids, but I don't think the battle droids looked good. Like, I thought there was a noticeable difference whenever there was a CG battle droid and a battle droid prop, because it surprised me. They actually had some battle droid props there on set that were actually motorized and everything. Like in the droid bar, when the droids are celebrating, there's one battle droid that's just moving his head back and forth in like a celebratory thing. So they obviously had that one hooked up to wires. So there were a couple actual, and then the Ugnaughts are working on some actual physical battle droid props. I could tell that. So that was cool. That there were actually physical battle droid props, because I think they had like one or two on the set for like Phantom Menace for like visual reference. Here's what these things look like. But of course, 99.9% of the rest of them were all CG, and even then, I don't think the props that they did have on set were actually able to move. I don't think they were had any I don't they were just statues basically. So so yeah, when the battle droids were CG, it was a very obvious, oh yeah, this is CG. I thought the sets and everything looked fine because they were still working in the volume and all that. But the droids moving around and stuff, it just didn't look right. I also thought that the super battle droid chase sequence, I thought its movements looked very floaty, but that may just be because we're not used to seeing super battle droids run. And I agree with pretty much everyone else on the internet that the idea of super battle droids running is terrifying, because we know how hard they are to take down because of how many clone troopers we've seen get taken out by those things because they're so beefy and armored. And then, and then of course, for anyone that's played Star Wars Republic Commando, terrifying, terrifying. Super battle droids are terrifying in that game because they're so big and armored. So, so yeah, CG I think was lacking a little bit in this episode. And I don't know if that was maybe just a me thing or if it was part of the, oh yeah, ILM and all the other visual effects artists are being overworked, which is unfortunate. So, but I mean, that's really my only critique about the episode. I liked the stuff with Axe Woves and the little bit of the Mandalorian mercenary fleet we did get. We brought their clan in. It seems like, I don't know if this is House Kryze completely. I mean, there seems to be like, or what. So I hope that they'll maybe explain that a little bit more. Because they definitely weren't at the castle, earlier in the season. So it's like, it would kind of be funny if like just all of House Kryze abandoned her to be mercenaries, which would kind of work out considering that's what Mandalorians are, and a lot of the time is these super these super commando bounty hunters and stuff. So yeah, I really think that's it. I really have to say for this episode. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was a fun side adventure. I thought the different ways that Bo and Din went about their side quest was funny, because like at first Bo-Katan was like, I don't want to do this. We need to get through this as soon as possible. And Din's like, no. I do this all the time. Follow my lead. And he is doing it's like, okay, here's how you properly speak to Ugnaughts and everything. But then it was the different levels of who was comfortable with what. Where Din was comfortable talking to the Ugnaughts, but then the second he's around battle droids, he's like, all right, I'm ready to speed this along because I don't like reliving my PTSD nightmares from when my parents were murdered during the Clone Wars and I was forcibly taken in by the Mandalorians. I mean, I don't think he's resentful. He's definitely not resentful against the Mandalorians because they saved his life and he became one. But it's like he's still not happy with battle droids. So I think he got a certain sense of satisfaction out of kicking the super battle droids and then helping take one down because of what they did to his parents during the Clone Wars and everything. Which that is a valid reason to be a little salty. But it was funny seeing both of them kind of navigate the side quest while Grogu just played like space shuffleboard or whatever the heck that was. So yeah, I thought it was a good episode. It was a nice little light episode to just go, okay, this is a fun little side adventure that still continued the story. And next week, if because
quote unquote spoilers. I'm not actually going to spoil anything here, but Star Wars Celebration London ended as of today that I'm recording this Monday, and they showed the next episode of The Mandalorian at Celebration, and I couldn't quite resist. And I looked up the leaks because, of course, people leaked things and were posting things in comments. So, if the things I saw online are to be believed, next week is going to get bonkers. So, yeah, I think everyone's going to have enjoyed getting a little breather here because things are about to get wild. Like I said, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil next week's stuff because that would be wrong of me. But yeah, so that's but I think this is going to be, a nice little breather week, and then the next 2 weeks are going to be probably a little crazy. So yeah, that's exciting. I thought it was a good episode. Weakest of the season for sure, but not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's like that's what this show is. It goes to random planets. We have a little side quest. We do like a little 10% of the plot, and it's like and move on to the next planet. So I mean, this is more Mandalorian. The people complaining about this are probably the exact same people complaining about like the Prison Break episode from season 1, that they're like, oh, this isn't going to play into the plot at all. And then the next season, it's like, oh yeah, actually it did play into the plot a lot. Because without this one guy, we wouldn't have ever found where Moff Gideon was holding Grogu. And they mentioned that, because of their hospitality and how nice they were in doing this side quest, that, that Jack Black and Lizzo might speak to the New Republic about, formally recognizing Mandalore as an independent system again when the Mandalorians take back over. So I mean that would be a big political deal. So if that's where, so that could make this episode even more relevant then too. It's like, so I mean, and that's just how things work with Star Wars, especially with like Dave Filoni projects, is that you get an episode that you think doesn't really matter much, and then you wait a year and a half, and it's like, oh wow, actually that episode was really important. So Clone Wars did that a lot in seasons 2, 3, 4, and 5, where it's like and even longer than that, where it's like, hey, Zillow Beast, remember this? All right, we'll see you in 13 years when Bad Batch comes back. So so yeah, so I trust the story creative process. They haven't really let me down. I mean, Book of Boba Fett had a couple little hiccups like that along those kind of lines, but it's like maybe we're getting a season 2 of that, so maybe those won't be hiccups after all. We'll see. And so yeah, I thought it was a good episode. There's not really much else I can say on that. Not perfect, and I can understand some people being turned off by the obvious, hey, look at the celebrity guest star, but yeah, I liked it. So anyway, I will see you guys next week for the next one. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.